Every species had a voice. Every world had a representative. Every seat was filled, except one. Earth's chair, polished, untouched, and eternally vacant, sat like a ghost in the heart of the Galactic Council. For 2 centuries, no human ever attended. No vote was cast. No word was spoken. And yet, every time disaster loomed, it vanished. Wars averted. Empires stabilized. Threats dissolved into silence. Ambassador Zara Keth never believed in coincidences, only patterns. And Earth's silence was a pattern drenched in secrets. As she digs into forbidden archives and forgotten records, one phrase keeps returning: the Whisper Protocol. What she's about to uncover will shake the very foundation of the galaxy, because the humans were never absent. They were watching, they were protecting, and now, they may be the only hope left. The silent observer. Ambassador Zara Keth pressed her palm against the cool metal wall of Nexus Prime, feeling the gentle vibrations of the massive space station as it orbited the neutral world of Concordia. The Galactic Trade Council headquarters buzzed with activity as representatives from 47 different species conducted the business of civilization. Trade agreements, territorial disputes, resource allocation, technological exchanges, all the complex machinery of galactic society operated here with clockwork precision. Yet something had always bothered Zara about the Grand Assembly Hall. In the center of the chamber, arranged in concentric circles according to species influence and population, sat the seats of power. The Zalarians, like herself, occupied the third ring, their blue-scaled faces and forearms making them excellent negotiators. The massive Krullans dominated the inner circle with their stone-like appearance and booming voices. The graceful ethereals floated in their specialized atmosphere pods, their translucent forms shimmering with wisdom accumulated over millennia. But one seat, positioned in a place of honor near the center, remained perpetually empty. A simple chair of polished dark wood, elegant in its simplicity, bearing a small nameplate that read Terra Sol System. Earth's seat had been vacant for as long as anyone could remember, yet no one spoke of removing it. Zara had been appointed to the Council 5 years ago, and the mystery of the empty chair had gnawed at her curiosity every single day. Today, she decided to finally seek answers. The Council's historical archives occupied an entire deck of Nexus Prime, its crystalline databanks containing 2,000 years of galactic civilization records. Zara approached the elderly ethereal librarian, whose form pulsed with soft green light as she worked. "I seek information about Terra, the human homeworld," Zara said, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. The ethereal's luminescence flickered with what might have been surprise. "An unusual request, Ambassador. Most species focus on current affairs rather than dormant memberships." Dormant? Earth maintains observer status, does it not? Indeed. They joined the Council 200 standard years ago, but immediately requested observer status only. They attend no sessions, participate in no votes, and have never spoken in the Assembly. The ethereal gestured to a floating data crystal. "Their membership dues are always paid promptly, but they remain silent." Zara accepted the crystal, its surface warm to her touch. As she activated it, holographic records began to display around her. She learned that humanity had been discovered during the Great Expansion period, when the Council was actively seeking new member species. Earth's technology was primitive by galactic standards, but their biological and cultural diversity had impressed the survey teams. The admission process had been standard until the very end. Human representatives had arrived, led by someone called Secretary General Elena Vasquez. The records showed they had passed all the standard tests of sapience, technological capability, and peaceful intent. Then, just as they were to take their seats as full members, they had made an unprecedented request. "We accept membership," the recorded message from Secretary General Vasquez played, "but we ask to serve only as observers. We believe we have much to learn before we can contribute meaningfully to galactic governance." The Council had been puzzled, but agreed. After all, some species took centuries to become active participants. The seat was prepared, the nameplate installed, and everyone expected the humans to gradually increase their involvement, but they never had. As Zara delved deeper into the records, a pattern began to emerge that made her scaled skin prickle with unease. Major galactic crises over the past 2 centuries had a disturbing tendency to resolve themselves in unexpected ways. The Krullan-Velaran border war that should have lasted decades ended abruptly when both sides' supply lines mysteriously failed simultaneously, forcing negotiations. The Endorian plague that threatened to wipe out entire star systems was cured when the formula for a perfect antidote appeared anonymously in medical databases across the galaxy. The Great Trade Collapse that should have brought down governments was averted when critical economic data appeared at precisely the right moments to guide recovery efforts. Each time, investigations found no evidence of outside interference. The solution seemed to emerge naturally, as if the galaxy itself was somehow self-correcting. But Zara's analytical mind saw a different pattern. The timing was too perfect, the solutions too elegant, the outcomes too consistently beneficial for pure chance. Her research led her to classified sections of the archives, requiring special permissions that took weeks to obtain. When she finally accessed the restricted files, what she found made her heart race. Buried in intelligence reports, hidden in diplomatic footnotes, scattered across maintenance logs from dozens of systems, were tiny references to unexplained activities. A disabled freighter in the Outer Rim found its engines mysteriously repaired overnight, allowing it to escape raiders. Pirates attacking civilian transports discovered their weapon systems failing at crucial moments. Slave traders found their ships' navigation computers mysteriously redirecting them to patrol fleets. Disease outbreaks were contained by medical supplies that appeared without official authorization. Natural disasters were mitigated by equipment that shouldn't have existed, and in every case, when authorities investigated, they found the same thing. Nothing. No evidence, no witnesses, no explanations. Just problems that solved themselves with impossible precision. The pattern was so subtle, so carefully hidden, that only someone specifically looking for it would notice. But once seen, it was undeniable. Someone was operating in the shadows, working to protect and guide galactic civilization without recognition or glory. Zara's investigation eventually led her to discover something called the Whisper Protocol. Mentioned in a single, heavily redacted intelligence report, the document revealed that human vessels were regularly detected at the edges of various star systems, but they never responded to hails and disappeared before they could be intercepted. More disturbing, these sightings coincided with the unexplained beneficial events. Late one night in her quarters, Zara sat surrounded by data crystals and holographic displays, trying to piece together the full picture. Her research had revealed that humanity possessed technology far more advanced than their initial assessments had suggested. Their ships moved with impossible stealth, their computers could infiltrate any system without leaving traces, and their personnel operated with a level of coordination that suggested extensive experience in covert operations. But why? Why would a species with such capabilities choose to remain in the shadows? Why accept the limitations of observer status when they could clearly dominate the Council if they chose? The answer came to her in fragments scattered across historical records. Humanity had emerged from a world torn by conflict, where they had learned the hard lesson that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Their own history was filled with examples of well-intentioned leaders becoming tyrants, of democracies sliding into authoritarianism, of organizations founded to help becoming instruments of oppression. They had joined the galactic community, not to lead, but to serve. They had seen the pattern of galactic politics, how species rose to dominance only to fall into the same traps that had plagued their own world. So they had chosen a different path entirely. Zara realized she was not the first to investigate the human mystery. Other intelligence services had noticed the patterns, but their reports were either ignored or classified so deeply they might as well not exist. The galactic establishment was comfortable with the illusion that they governed themselves, that their own wisdom and negotiation skills maintained peace and prosperity. Zara watched the data in fascination and growing respect. You've been gardeners, not architects, nurturing growth rather than building structures. Exactly. Captain Chen smiled for the first time since arriving. And it's worked remarkably well. Galactic civilization has experienced unprecedented peace and prosperity over the past 2 centuries. Not because of superior leadership or better institutions, but because someone was quietly removing the obstacles to natural cooperation and growth. But Dr. Williams's expression had grown grave as she manipulated the display to show recent data. Unfortunately, our monitoring systems have detected something that threatens everything we've accomplished. The hologram shifted to show the galactic rim, where space appeared empty except for subtle distortions in the background radiation. We call them the Devourers, an ancient artificial intelligence network that consumes entire civilizations, learning from each conquest and growing stronger. Zara felt her blood chill as she studied the readings. How long have you known about this threat? Since before we joined the council, Captain Chen replied grimly. Finding evidence of the Devourers was actually what prompted humanity's rapid technological advancement. We realized we needed to prepare not just our own species, but the entire galaxy for their eventual return. The display showed projections of the Devourers approach vast fleets of ships unlike anything in known space, technology that defied current understanding of physics, and a ruthless efficiency that had annihilated countless civilizations over millions of years. The 200 years of peace weren't an accident, Dr. Williams continued. We've been strengthening galactic civilization, building alliances, and advancing collective technology while working to understand the Devourer threat. Every crisis we helped resolve made the galaxy more unified and resilient. Zara stared at the data, understanding the full scope of humanity's sacrifice for the first time. You've spent 2 centuries preparing for war while letting everyone else think you were primitive observers. Not just preparing, Captain Chen said quietly. We've been building the infrastructure for resistance. Human settlements exist in every major system, disguised as trading posts, research stations, and mining operations. Our people have integrated into dozens of species societies, forming connections and gathering intelligence. When the Devourers arrive, the galaxy won't face them as 47 separate species, but as a unified civilization, with humanity serving as its hidden nervous system. The weight of this revelation pressed down on Zara like a physical force. But why tell me this now? Why reveal yourselves after so much effort to remain hidden? Dr. Williams and Captain Chen exchanged a look loaded with meaning. Because, Dr. Williams said slowly, our long-range sensors indicate the Devourers will arrive within the next 10 standard years. The time for working in shadows is ending. The Council needs to know the truth about both the threat they face and the resources available to meet it. Captain Chen stood, walking to the viewport where Nexus Prime's rotation provided a view of the stars. We've served the galaxy faithfully for 2 centuries, asking nothing in return. Now, we need the Council to trust us as we prepare for the greatest challenge in galactic history. Zara joined him at the viewport, her mind reeling from everything she had learned. What do you need from us? Permission to stop hiding, he replied simply. The Whisper Protocol served its purpose, but the coming war will require open cooperation on a scale never before achieved. Humanity is ready to step out of the shadows, but only if the galaxy is ready to accept us as partners rather than leaders. As if summoned by their conversation, alerts began chiming throughout the station. The Council's deep space monitoring systems had detected massive gravitational distortions at the galactic rim, exactly where the human data had predicted the Devourers would first appear. The war they had been preparing for had begun. When silence becomes thunder, the emergency session of the Galactic Trade Council was unlike anything in its 2,000-year history. Representatives from all 47 member species crowded into the assembly hall, their voices creating a cacophony of fear, confusion, and desperate debate. The massive holographic displays showed readings that defied comprehension, gravitational anomalies suggesting vessels of impossible size emerging from the void beyond the galactic rim. Ambassador Zara Keth stood at the central podium, her forearms spread wide as she tried to maintain order. Beside her, Captain Marcus Chen and Dr. Sarah Williams waited patiently, their calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding them. Order! Order! Zara's voice boomed through the chamber's amplification system. We have confirmed reports of unknown vessels approaching from outside the galaxy. This council must respond with unity, not panic. The massive Krullan representative, General Thrak, slammed his stone-like fist on his species table. How can we respond to something we don't understand? Our combined fleets couldn't stop a force capable of the energy readings we're detecting. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. The ethereal representative floated closer to the center, her translucent form pulsing with anxiety. Our mathematical projections suggest these vessels possess technology thousands of years beyond our current capabilities. If their intentions are hostile, their intentions are conquest and assimilation, Dr. Williams said, her quiet voice somehow carrying clearly through the chamber. The hall fell silent as all attention focused on the human delegation. We know because we've been tracking this threat for over 2 centuries. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. Species representatives began talking over each other, demanding explanations, accusations of deception filling the air. Zara had known this moment would be difficult, but seeing the raw emotions of betrayal and fear on so many faces made her heart ache. Captain Chen stepped forward. We request permission to address the council. Granted, Zara said formally. Though she knew the decision would be controversial, Chen activated a holographic projector, filling the chamber with data humanity had collected over 2 centuries of secret observation. The entity approaching our galaxy calls itself the Collective. It has consumed thousands of civilizations across multiple galaxies, growing stronger with each conquest. Its technology adapts to overcome any defense, its intelligence learns from every battle, and its purpose is the complete absorption of all organic and artificial life. The display showed recordings from previous encounters, world stripped bare, their populations absorbed into the collective's hive mind, their technology integrated into an ever-growing war machine. The images were horrifying in their clinical efficiency. You've known about this for 200 years? The Andorian representative's voice dripped with accusation. You've watched us go about our business while hiding knowledge of galactic annihilation? Dr. Williams stood beside Chen. We've spent those 200 years preparing. Every crisis we helped resolve, every conflict we prevented, every advancement we guided, all of it was designed to strengthen galactic civilization for this moment. She gestured, and the display changed to show the true scope of humanity's preparation. Hidden installations in every major system, disguised fleets positioned at strategic locations, defensive networks that spanned entire star clusters. The galaxy's apparent peace had masked the construction of the greatest military infrastructure in known history. The humans built all this without our knowledge? The Falarian ambassador's feline features showed a mixture of amazement and suspicion. How do we know you're not the real threat? Captain Chen smiled grimly. Because if we wanted to conquer the galaxy, we would have done it already. Our current fleet could disable every military installation in council space within a standard month. But conquest was never our goal. Service was. The chamber erupted again as representatives grappled with the implications. Zara found herself in the position of defending humanity's actions while simultaneously trying to process the magnitude of their revelations. General Thrak's booming voice cut through the noise. Even if we accept your claims about preparing for this threat, what makes you think we can win? Your own data shows this collective has destroyed civilizations far more advanced than ours. Dr. Williams exchanged a look with Captain Chen before answering. Because every civilization they faced fought alone. They were conquered as separate species, each using their own tactics and technology. We've spent 2 centuries building something they've never encountered, a truly unified galactic defense. The display showed humanity's masterpiece, not weapons or ships, but connections. Trade networks that could become supply lines, diplomatic relationships that could become military alliances, cultural exchanges that had created understanding between species that had never cooperated before. The collective analyzes and adapts. To each species' fighting style, Chen explained. But we won't be fighting as Krullans or Zolarians or Andorians. We'll be fighting as one galaxy, using combined strategies they can't predict because they've never existed before. As if summoned by his words, new alarms began sounding throughout Nexus Prime. The station's long-range sensors had detected the first collective vessels entering the galaxy's outer spiral arms. The enemy had arrived ahead of even humanity's most pessimistic projections. "They're here, Doctor," Williams announced unnecessarily. "We have perhaps 30 standard days before they reach inhabited systems." The reality of imminent invasion focused the Council's attention like nothing else could. Political differences seemed petty when faced with extinction. Even the most suspicious representatives began asking practical questions about defense strategies, rather than accusations about human deception. Captain Chen activated his personal communicator. "This is Chen to Terra Command. Implement Protocol Omega. All Shadows units transition to full operational status." Throughout the galaxy, humanity's hidden network came alive. Disguised cargo vessels revealed themselves as advanced warships. Mining stations deployed weapons that had been hidden in plain sight for decades. Scientific outposts activated shield generators that could protect entire star systems. But the most remarkable transformation was social rather than technological. Human agents embedded in dozens of societies began revealing themselves, not as conquerors, but as coordinators. They had spent generations building relationships, earning trust, and learning to work within each species' cultural framework. "Admiral Zhang reports the Krullan Defense Fleet is integrating with our tactical network," Dr. Williams announced as reports flowed in. "Commander Okafor confirms the Andorian Medical Corps is ready to implement our injury treatment protocols. Captain Nakamura says the Falarian stealth squadrons have accepted combined operational command." Zara watched in amazement as humanity's true plan revealed itself. They hadn't just prepared for war, they had prepared to lead without ruling, to coordinate without controlling. Every species maintained its autonomy while contributing to a unified defense that played to each civilization's strengths. The first battles occurred in the Outer Rim systems, and the results were unlike anything the collective had encountered before. Instead of predictable species-specific tactics, they faced fluid strategies that combined Krullan firepower with Falarian stealth, Andorian medical technology with human innovation, ethereal wisdom with Zolarian adaptability. Captain Chen stood before the holographic battle displays, coordinating a defense that spanned hundreds of star systems. "The collective is learning fast," he reported to the Council. "But we're learning faster. Every engagement teaches us more about their capabilities while they struggle to adapt to our combined approach." Dr. Williams monitored the psychological aspects of the war. Species that have been rivals for centuries are fighting side by side. The collective's greatest advantage, their unity, is being matched by something they never expected: voluntary cooperation on a galactic scale. The war raged for 3 months, but it became clear that humanity's strategy was working. The collective, designed to overwhelm divided civilizations, found itself facing an opponent that grew stronger through diversity rather than weaker through division. The final battle took place at the galaxy's core, where the collective had hoped to establish a foothold for their ultimate conquest. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by a fleet representing every species in the galaxy, coordinated by human tactical genius, but fighting with their own courage and determination. When the last collective vessel was destroyed, the galaxy had learned a profound lesson about the nature of true leadership. Humanity had saved them all, not by taking command, but by enabling everyone else to be their best selves. In the aftermath, the Galactic Trade Council underwent its first major restructuring in millennia. Earth's seat was no longer empty, not because humans demanded recognition, but because the galaxy finally understood that the greatest leaders are those who serve others. Captain Chen, now wearing the simple insignia of the first Galactic Defense Coordinator, stood before the rebuilt assembly. "The chair was never about power," he said quietly. "It was about responsibility. Humanity learned long ago that the best way to lead is to help others become leaders themselves. the Council voted unanimously to establish the Whisper Protocol as the galaxy's new governing philosophy. Not rule from above, but service from within. Not dominance through strength, but leadership through example. Earth's seat was finally filled, but it had become something far more important than a symbol of authority. It had become a reminder that true power lies not in commanding others, but in empowering them to command themselves. And in the depths of space, humanity's watchers continued their eternal vigil, ready to step from the shadows whenever the galaxy needed its guardian angels to become visible once more. The truth was far more humbling. Humanity had appointed itself the galaxy's guardian, working tirelessly behind the scenes to prevent disasters, mediate conflicts, and guide civilization toward prosperity. They asked for no credit, no recognition, no reward beyond the knowledge that their actions made life better for countless beings. But Zara's research had uncovered something else, something that filled her with cold dread. Recent intelligence reports suggested a new threat was emerging. From the void beyond the galactic rim, something ancient and malevolent was stirring, something that had been dormant for thousands of years. The same reports that mentioned the Whisper Protocol indicated that humanity was preparing for something far more dangerous than the routine crises they had been quietly resolving. As she sat in her darkened quarters, watching the stars whirl past Nexus Prime's viewports, Zara realized that the galaxy's secret guardians might soon be forced to step out of the shadows. And when that happened, the Council would finally understand why Earth's seat had remained empty all these years. The humans hadn't been hiding from responsibility, they had been preparing for the greatest responsibility of all. The question was whether the galaxy would be ready to accept the truth about its protectors when the time came to face the darkness together. In the distance, sensors detected the approach of an unscheduled vessel. According to the records, it was a human ship requesting permission to dock. For the first time into centuries, Earth was coming to call. The Hidden Guardians, the human ship that docked at Nexus Prime, was unlike anything in the Council's databases. Its hull absorbed light, rather than reflecting it, creating an unsettling visual effect that made it difficult to focus on. The design was elegant yet practical, suggesting technology far beyond what anyone had expected from the supposedly primitive human civilization. Ambassador Zara Keth waited in Docking Bay 7, her forearms clasped behind her back in a gesture of formal diplomatic respect. She had requested this meeting through official channels, citing her research into an active member species. To her surprise, the humans had agreed immediately. The airlock hissed open, and two figures emerged. The first was a tall human male with graying hair and intelligent dark eyes, wearing a simple dark blue uniform with no visible rank insignia. The second was a shorter human female with auburn hair and an intense expression, carrying what appeared to be a sophisticated data tablet. Ambassador Keth, the male human said, his voice carrying a slight accent Zara couldn't identify. "I am Captain Marcus Chen of the Terra Service Corps. This is Dr. Sarah Williams, our xenocultural specialist. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." Zara blinked in surprise. She had expected to be the one thanking them for the audience. "The pleasure is mine, Captain. I must admit, your willingness to meet was unexpected. According to our records, human representatives haven't set foot on Nexus Prime in over a century." Dr. Williams stepped forward, her expression serious. "That's because you've been asking the right questions, Ambassador. Questions that suggest you've discovered things that others have overlooked." They walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime toward Zara's private office, passing other council members who stared openly at the human visitors. Word was already spreading through the station's communication networks. The mysterious observers from Terra had finally emerged from their self-imposed exile. Once they were seated in the privacy of Zara's office, Captain Chen leaned forward, his hands folded on the conference table. "You've been investigating the Whisper Protocol." It wasn't a question, and Zara felt a chill run down her spine. "How did you know?" "Because we've been monitoring all inquiries into human activities for the past 200 years, Dr. Williams replied matter-of-factly. "We knew someone would eventually piece together the pattern. We're honestly surprised it took this long." Zara's diplomatic training took over, helping her maintain composure despite her racing thoughts. Then you admit it? Humanity has been conducting covert operations throughout Council space? Captain Chen nodded slowly. We have. And before you ask, yes, we've been breaking numerous interstellar laws in the process. Unauthorized entry into sovereign systems, infiltration of government databases, manipulation of economic markets, interference with military operations, and dozens of other violations that would normally result in expulsion from the Council. And economic sanctions. The casual admission stunned Zara. She had expected denials, deflections, or at best partial acknowledgments. Then why? Why risk everything to operate in secret when you could have simply taken an active role in the Council? Your technology clearly surpasses most member species. You could have been leaders instead of shadows. Dr. Williams activated her data tablet, and a holographic display filled the air above the conference table. It showed Earth as it had been 2 centuries ago, a blue and green world marked by the scars of industrial civilization and recovering from what appeared to be significant environmental damage. This is why, she said quietly, when your survey teams first made contact with us, humanity was emerging from what we call the Great Reconciliation. For 3 centuries, our species had been tearing itself apart through wars, environmental destruction, and social inequality. We had reached the brink of extinction multiple times. The display shifted, showing images of human cities rebuilding, forests regrowing, oceans cleaning themselves. We learned something during those dark centuries that most galactic species haven't discovered yet. The problem isn't evil leaders or corrupt systems. The problem is power itself. Captain Chen took over the explanation. Every human government, no matter how well-intentioned, eventually fell into the same traps. Democratic republics became plutocracies. Socialist movements became authoritarian. Religious organizations became oppressive hierarchies. Even our most enlightened philosophers and leaders were corrupted by the very power they wielded to do good. The holographic display showed historical footage from Earth leaders making passionate speeches about justice and equality, then cutting to images of those same leaders years later, surrounded by luxury while their people suffered. We studied the galactic community extensively before joining the Council, Dr. Williams continued. We saw the same patterns repeating on a larger scale. Species that started with noble intentions, gradually becoming self-serving. Alliance systems that began as mutual aid, becoming tools of domination. Even the Council itself has evolved from its original purpose of promoting peace and cooperation into a forum for advancing national interests through diplomatic means. Zara felt uncomfortable as the truth of those words settled in. Her own species, the Zalarians, had joined the Council with genuine desires for peaceful coexistence, but she knew their current policies were driven more by trade advantages and territorial security than by universal welfare. So you chose to work outside the system entirely, she said, understanding beginning to dawn. We chose to serve without ruling, Captain Chen confirmed. The Whisper Protocol was established on a simple principle. Help when help is needed, but never seek credit or recognition. Power corrupts, but service purifies. The holographic display changed again, showing a timeline of human interventions over the past 2 centuries. The Krullan-Velaran border war, the Andorian plague, the Great Trade Collapse, and dozens of smaller crises Zara hadn't even known about. Each situation was carefully analyzed. Dr. Williams explained, we never imposed solutions. Instead, we created conditions that allowed the affected parties to find their own answers. A supply convoy breakdown that forced negotiations. A medical breakthrough that appeared to come from local research. Economic data that guided leaders toward stable policies.